Hi there, I'm Tlac. I wanted to share my method of doing the Guild Dragon. Method is based on the method posted by CRK Kingdoms_tips on Twitter. They are an excellent resource when it comes to everything related to CRK. The method I like to do is the Sorbet and Vampire team. I am aware that there are other combinations like Sorbet and Almond, and I think there's also an Affogato and Vampire. But this video, I will only go over the ones I am familiar with. Maybe in the future I will explore more options once I can get more jellies to get them all to 70. In any case, let's get started and see our team. This is the current team that I'm using. Everyone with the exception of Dark Choco is at 70, with their skill being at 70. For the treasures, the only one that is required to be maxed out is the stopwatch. The timings in this method are very tight and they are based on the stopwatch being at level 12. Let's take a look at the toppings now. First up we have Dark Choco. How the build is with full raspberry toppings, focusing on attack and damage resist. But some cooldown also helps to make sure his skill goes out in time. Some people have asked me why we use Dark Choco instead of Dark Cacao, and the reason for that is because of the defense debuff. Dark Choco lowers the defense by 25%, while Dark Cacao lowers it by 20%. 5% might not seem too much at first, but when both Sorbet and Vampire are hitting well above 1 million, that extra 5% suddenly becomes a lot more valuable in the long run. Next up we have Eclair. How I build them it has been with full raspberry toppings, focusing on damage resist and cooldown. You want to have a decent amount of damage resist because the dragon reflects some damage done, and this tends to make Eclair just explode after the skill hits. And here we have Sorbet, who I like to refer to them as Sharky because they are really cute. How I build them is with full raspberry toppings, focusing on cooldown. You really do need between 6% and 8% cooldowns, and some of the timings are very strict. Next up is Cotton. How I build her is with full chocolate toppings, focusing on cooldown only. You want her to be healing and summoning her sheep as often as she can. So slot in as many cooldown substats as you can get with the chocolate toppings. It is recommended to have close to 24% cooldown, not including the set bonuses. Last but not least, we have Vampire. With Vampire you want full raspberry toppings, focusing on attack, and some crit percent if your substats are nice. Some damage resist can also help too, since he tends to be a little bit squishy. This is my current setup as of the beginning of June 2022. I'll update this guide if it changes drastically over the months, but at least here there's a good baseline if you want to build your team for dragon fights. Before I start the fight, I want to mention a few very important things. First off, this method works best for dragons above level 30. Once the dragon is above level 30, the amount of damage it deals is quite a bit, and it's not really worth it to focus on survival since the damage will only keep increasing. This method focuses on trying to deal as much damage to the dragon before it can do its first breath attack, that usually wipes out everyone in the fight. The second important thing to mention is that this is not the best method out there. I believe the one with Affogato is the one that deals the most damage currently, but I personally haven't tried that method yet. Lastly, this is not meant to be a full auto method, and a lot of practice will be necessary. I'll now show you how the fight regularly goes, and I'll go more in detail afterwards. Here is how the damage graph looks, which obviously Vamp is doing a lot of the damage there. Now I will proceed to go over in detail how it's done. First off, I start with autoplay on and at 1% speed. I'd really recommend keeping the fight at 1% at the beginning so that there are no issues later on with the rotation. The first thing to do is to use Cotton's skill right before the stairs show up as the cookies are running towards the dragon. We do these so that the summons can take the stun attack the dragon does rather than our cookies, since that will interrupt their skill. What I do to make sure I get this skill off on time is to time it to Sharky's cooldown clock. I wait until the timers are on the shiny part of their fin. I know it's quite silly, but so far I haven't missed yet. As soon as a fight starts, you use a clear skill followed by Dark Chocos and disable the autoplay right after. You can set a clear skill to be used right as the fight starts by tapping his skill once before the fight starts. The reason we want a clear to go first is due to the dragon reflecting a portion of the damage back to the sender. If a clear does his skill right after the debuff from Dark Choco has been applied, there is a very high chance that he will be outright defeated by the damage reflection. It is possible to have a clear do the skill after Dark Choco does his initially. Thanks to the Cookie Alliance relic set bonuses, we are able to get shields right at the start of the fight. If your Eclair has these shields as well as a decent amount of damage resist, you might be able to get away with using Dark Choco's skill followed by Eclairs right after. There is a possibility that this still makes your Eclair explode, so be sure to practice it beforehand if it's possible to do it. Regardless of which route you take, after both skills go off, you have to turn off the autoplay so that Vamp and Sharky's skills can match the Slingshot's cooldown. In this fight, I do use Dark Choco first because I know Eclair will survive the impact. The next step is what really makes or breaks this method, and will be the one that requires the most amount of practice for sure. What we're trying to do here is match the timing of both Vamp's and Sharky's skill to the Slingshot threshold cooldown. We want both skills to hit as soon as the treasure gets activated so that we can get the most amount of damage and that both of their skills will have enough time to recharge before the dragon's breath attack that wipes off everyone. Similar to how I time myself with Cotton at the beginning of the fight, I guide myself using the cooldown circle of the Slingshot treasure for this portion. Once the cooldown circle of the Slingshot is at 10 o'clock, I immediately activate Vamp's skill followed by Sharky's skill right after that. Once both have been activated, I press the auto button and turn it on so that the treasure gets activated as soon as it comes out of cooldown. All of this happens in less of a second, so make sure you get lots of practice to get the hang of it. The hardest part of this section is to get the timing right. A little too soon and the Slingshot debuff will not be applied to Vamp's and Sharky's damage. A little too late and both Vamp and Sharky will not be able to get their skill out a second time before the Dragon Breath. I play on an iPad and a phone, so tapping quickly is a lot easier in this case. For the folks who use an emulator, I am not sure if you can set it up so that the keyboard can match the screen and you can make it quicker to activate it in order. After that is done though, you can leave the rest of the fight on autoplay until everyone gets defeated by the Dragon's Breath. In case your Eclair is using his skill before Dark Choco, you might want to set the cookies to wait until Dark Choco uses his skill first, then do Eclairs to be able to deal as much damage as you can. This will make Eclair explode, but so will the Dragon's Breath afterwards, so might as well deal all the damage you can. And that is it for the Vamp and Sharky method. It is certainly not the easiest one to get the hang of it, but once you do it is very satisfying to see the high damage numbers. Thank you all for your time and I hope this video was helpful.